Hi, my name is Blair, and I am in Zone 8B in Central Texas, specifically the Austin urban area, and I am a gardener. I don't know when that title became official, but it probably took me years to even consider myself even close to that. And then one day I just kind of realized, okay, I've got a whole backyard full of gardens. I guess I'm a gardener now. Um, but wherever you're starting your journey, it really is a slow, steady progression versus going too fast. This is my dog, Dory. She's very interested in the sticks that are under me right now. So she's, oh, hello, Dory. Yes, okay. But anyway, today I wanted to do something that I had a lot of fun with. So I'm going to try to do it all year, all season this year. I might even do it in August when things are really sad in the garden, so I can explain kind of what's happening. Thing that I really enjoyed doing the garden tour. Just kind of walking through all the different steps of the garden. I've actually done them for myself. Used to post them on Instagram and things like that. I'm sure no one ever watched them, but I would do a tour of my garden and kind of walk through the progress of how things are going in a particular garden season. I've done it for years. It helps remind me if I go back and look at pictures or videos of kind of what's happening, when to be patient and realize, oh, wait, hold on, this particular thing doesn't happen until May or June or whatever it is. And then, give myself the patience and also give myself the realization. This year I look at something, I'm like, oh, it's not doing very well. And then I look back at last year's video, it's like, actually, it's doing better than last year. So I'm making progress. It doesn't have to be perfect progress. It just has to be progress. One of the things reasons I wanted to start this channel is I think Texas is a very different growing region than some of the really excellent YouTubers out there. There's Charles Dowding is amazing. I'm a big fan of his no dig method. I do use no dig here. I don't till, I don't turn up the soil in any way. I just add compost to the top, maybe a little mulch in the summer. He would never do that because he lives in an area where you wouldn't do mulch because it's wet, and that would cause slugs and pill bugs and all kinds of other kind of animals that or creatures that break down soil and break down plant material, would cause all kinds of issues. Versus here in Texas, if you don't put mulch, especially in June, July, August, then you're going to be so dried out that your plants are really going to suffer and struggle. So there's different things here in Texas in particular that I think is really important to bring up, and also to kind of show you some of the issues that I've had with it. I think I put mulch on too early this year, for instance. We had a very wet season. It's another thing. It's every year is going to be a little bit different. This season was a little bit too wet. I got really excited. I put mulch on starting in like January, and now I have a little bit of a pest pill bug problem, basically, and they're mowing down a lot of my plants. So I'm pulling back on the mulch, going to keep an even watering over some seeds that I'm planning on planting, and just kind of back off on the mulch until it gets really hot and dry here, which is when the mulch really makes sense. Had some other issues with mulch. The mulch this year really had a lot of seeds in it. I need to find the certified weed-free, seed-free, whatever. It was fine. It's just wheat seed. It's really easy to pull up their roots, but it is really annoying because there's no weeds in my garden except for the ones that I put there. So that's frustrating. But anyway, back to my point. Texas is a very different region than, say, probably the closest to Roots and Refuge. So if you're looking for another channel to learn a lot about gardening, Roots and Refuge Farm is great. Jess is in a zone 7B, I think she said, zone 8A, somewhere in there. So she's closer. She's going to get harder freezes in the winter. She's not going to get quite as hot in the summer, I don't think. We get to 100, even up to 110 degrees, and it'll be 100 for 100 days in a row is, I think, our record around here. But we get really, really hot, especially in August, September, July. Those kind of months are pretty brutal here. And actually, I view we have two seasons. We have a spring season, which is now. This is late April. And we have a fall season, which starts, you would kind of plant those plants or transplant in whenever it cools down, late September. Maybe throw a few seeds in the ground, and then we kind of get fall into winter with certain brassicas and things that'll survive the winter. I've got spring allergies, so apologies for the red eyes and the the occasion I'll be wiping my eyes because the allergies kind of cause me to cry. So I'm not upset about anything. I'm actually thrilled to be outside on a beautiful day in the garden. I do have a little bit of an allergic reaction to the outdoors. Kind of funny that gardening is my passion and I have allergies to spring. But anyway, So, all right, I'm just gonna walk you through my garden and enough talking and just kind of show you what's going on. I've added a few things. I did try to do a video last week, but my neighbor's using a jackhammer, which made it rather challenging for me to record a video. So I'm just gonna probably delete that one and show you the current garden. There's some cool things that are major changes, and I'm really excited to show those to you. All right, let's check it out. Yeah, we're always starting with the pepper plants. I would have to go back and look at the videos from last time, but I think these guys have grown a fair amount. They're certainly showing a lot of blooms. There's just, I mean, so many blooms on here. I did see earlier today, and I was hoping to see them for this video, quite a few. Oh, they're there. So I wanted to show you guys this. There's a ladybug in here. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus. A little hard when it's windy. There's a ladybug in there. That is both a sign that I have wonderful predators in my garden, which are a great thing, and also some may say good luck. I'm just really excited they're here because they're going to eat the aphids that are very clearly on my plants. So when you see them, you may or may not have an aphid problem. They are not causing the problem, but they are kind of letting you know they're out there eating the aphids that are a problem. These plants are doing really well, but this morning I came out and I noticed just kind of this portion, there were aphids all over it, just oodles of them on the backs of leaves and a few other places. What I did to combat that, you'll also see, so there, I don't know if you can see them, but there's some ants on here too. Ants are also an indication that you have aphids because they farm them actually, and they eat the honeydew or something that they make. But so what I did was I just went through, I squished them with my fingers, the aphids, and then I hosed this down with a good strong spray of water. And then I'm letting the ladybugs do the rest of the work. They'll do the fine detail work of getting the aphids off. Also going through and just tapping the backs of the flowers. I want to get every pepper that I can. So I just, before we hit our too hot season where we have issues in the summer. I'll make sure this is in focus. We're having issues focusing today. There we go. All right, I think we're in focus now. So these guys are really happy. We had a couple of colder days, and my basil's doing really well. It doesn't like extreme heat, actually. Weirdly enough, even though it does do very well in Texas, it doesn't like that extreme heat. Another thing that I did, I added some trellising both this week and last week. So I used to have a lot of bamboo in my yard, so I've got a lot of leftover bamboo. You can use bamboo stakes, and then I just tie it up with, see there's some metal wire in there. Try to get that to focus. There's some metal wire in there, and I just tie it up real loosely around the stem. See how that's real loose around the stem? It's not even wrapped all the way around. I'm just giving it a little bit of structural support to hold up the plant. I noticed they were kind of leaning. Actually, this guy over here, I just tied up today, can see how it was leaning over and the stem was turning and curving. We don't want that. So this should straighten out. But I just attached it to a pole, leaned it up against the pole to give it a little structure stability. This is another way to do it. I don't have a ton of these tomato cages. They wear out over the years, honestly. But I use the smaller ones for peppers. These tomato cages are a joke because my tomato plants in Texas in particular get really big. So unless you're maybe doing a determinate. Oh, look at this. We've got some lovely shishito peppers. Looks like we'll have a harvest soon. It's always hard when you see one big one like this and you're like, well, I mean, I can't exactly make a stir fry with one pepper. So you gotta wait for the other ones to come along. But we've got a couple here. So those are all shishitos. Those should be good. This one I'm still thinking is a shishito, actually. It's supposed to be an ancho poblano, but I'm gonna let that guy keep going, but kind of looks awful lot like the shishito plants right next to it. So might have been mislabeled. This is my purple bell pepper, Purple Beauty bell pepper, which I'm really excited to see what kind of color of purple that is. It's doing pretty well. It was a little turned to its side, so we'll get that straightened up. Also pulling these guys up on their stakes gave this guy a little bit more sun, so I think that'll help this one take off. That's a red bell, basically a variety of red bell called Majestic, Sweet Majestic. And that's a second one of the same variety. And then this guy is really struggling. This is one of those spots. See all this damage? This is from pill bugs, actually. Actually just saw a video from Charles Dowding that confirmed. I always thought it was pill bugs. but it really confirmed this is definitely pill bug damage. And so what I did, you'll notice the ground over here with these plants that are, doing pretty well against the pill bugs, it has got mulch on it. And I think I'm going to leave it. We'll see. But over here, I've taken the mulch away. And partly this plant's not doing terribly well. And then also I'm planning to plant some stuff over here. And I think I need to clear the mulch for a couple of days. I'm probably going to even do another second pass at clearing mulch. I've just got too many pill bugs. And I think if I try to plant anything over here, they'll just saw the tops off. So anyway, I've got 2 more kohlrabi, these wonderful, cool purple plants. Those are kohlrabi. They grew great here. Highly recommend. I think I planted them in January or something like that, January, February. And I've got 2 left. I just kind of thinned them out as I went along, and mostly it was just a pattern of eating them. But I also did a video on how to harvest those in case you're curious, because it's kind of a weird vegetable or fruit. You actually eat this part. You can eat the leaves. I didn't like them terribly much. My kale was a lot sweeter and tastier, more succulent, but these guys they're pretty tasty. They're a very, very unique flavor. This is my kale. I planted this last fall and it's still very happy and healthy. So I'm going to leave it there until it decides to not be or taste bad. But it is kind of in the middle of the garden. So next time I think I plant kale, I'm going to plant it in a place where I intend the kale to be there for a long time. I plan on this being a full pepper garden, and that kale is kind of actually in the way. You will see there's a little bit of damage from all right, there's the caterpillars on the leaves. See a couple of them on there. What I'll do when I see a leaf like this that just, I don't know, looks kind of gross to eat, I'll just break it off and grab those 2 off, and I'll just toss them on the ground, come back and clean them up later. They'll go into my compost eventually. This is not quite as empty of a pot as it looked like. I had some sweet potatoes volunteer in my pantry, and I thought, what the heck, I've grown sweet potatoes before and really loved them, but slips are kind of expensive and hard to find. And so there's some sweet potatoes planted in here. The goal here actually isn't to grow sweet potatoes here, it's to grow sweet potato slips. I met a gardener recently who had planted a bunch of sweet potatoes just in a pot and then grew slips from it. So we'll see if that grows or not. So this is a picture of the sweet potato slips that originally volunteered in my pantry, and they've all grown some roots over about a week, which is looking fantastic, and I'm excited about these. Okay, so this is super cool. So this is still green, so it's definitely not ready to be picked, but this is a sweet Petite Marsales, which is a French variety that I'm trying out this year. You'll see the plant grew kind of unevenly. I'm guessing this side kind of got beheaded at some point, but it's doing really well. There's lots of peppers on the plant, so I'm pretty happy with it. Just tapping the flower up there to get it to another pepper. Peppers do great in Texas, honestly, as long as you can give them a little shade, which sounds counterintuitive. You'd think peppers love sun, but these are sweet banana peppers. They're real popular with kids. Highly recommend. I've got 2 plants. Marigolds are doing really well. I love marigolds. I think they're really pretty. It's always fun to have something pretty in your garden, even if you're not getting vegetables. But I have been kind of leaning this guy away from the pepper plants because, of course, I probably planted it a little bit too close, and I don't want it to crowd out the pepper plants. But it is still fun to have. All right, this garden, I will say, definitely a little overcrowded. I really need to pick these carrots, but we're picking them as fast as we can eat them, and they do better in the ground. So I need to pick all these carrots out of here so that I can give my tomatoes a little more air, but they seem to be doing okay. The carrot stems they're fairly thin. I think enough air is getting in there, so it's fine, but I do eventually need to pull these guys out and give the tomatoes, which are starting to bloom, a little more air. I've got my first couple tomatoes on here. Let's see, these are yellow plum. I can't remember if this is an H1 hybrid or not, but it is I think this is a solid producer, was my memory. Where did those guys, oh, they're there. So I think that's about as big as they get. Now, the most agonizing thing about tomatoes is you'll get these. They look, okay, they're gonna turn any day now. And they'll take like weeks, a month to finally change color the first time. And so you've finally got tomatoes on your plant, but then it seems to feel like it takes forever for those first few to ripen. See, they're starting to turn a little bit white, but they'll still take a long time to start color changing, and that's when they're ripe. Obviously, as soon as they blush, sometimes I'll pick them just because the squirrels are pretty greedy around here, but Again, I really need to clean out all these carrots. I'm letting this guy go to seed. This is kind of cool. This is called sweet marjoram. Let me see what it smells like. This is a new one for me, a new herb. Actually, I think I forgot to put this in my herb video. Wow, that smells amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay, sweet marjoram. Wow, that's cool. That's my new favorite garden smell, sweet marjoram. All right, this is, I think this is cardinal basil. Yep, nope. Oh, that's pretty good, but that's pretty good also. But I like the sweet marjoram a little bit better. I'm letting this go to seed. I'm going to save the seed. It's real easy to save the tatsoi seed, and it germinates really well. So this is one that I always try to let to go to seed because it's really easy to save and it's really easy to plant. All right, so these are my tomatillos, which is super cool. But one of the things I really wanted to show here as I zoom in is the new trellis that I put in. You see those red sticks, those are rebar sticks, and then the wiring behind them is hog wire. And all I did was thread the hog wire around the rebar stakes to create this trellis, and it's a really sturdy, stable way to make a trellis. It'll hold up, you know, these are probably a little bit short. They're only 4 feet tall. There's my first tomatillo, yay. They're only about 4 feet tall, but that will be a really sturdy trellis for those tomatillo plants and for the tomato plants that are on the other side. There's 2 trellises, one on each side. I don't know if you could see that there. But again, just get some rebar stakes from the store. You could do 4 feet tall. You could probably do up to 6 or 8 feet tall. One of my goals this year is actually to bend the tomato plants over a little so they're easier to harvest. But you'll see that hog wire and the rebar in there. And that's just a really wonderful, inexpensive way to trellis your tomato plants. These onions are getting even better. I did notice this morning some pill bug damage. They had eaten a hole in one of them. They seem to be eating the outside skins off of them, which is actually kind of annoying. So just jumping in here, this is one of those pros and cons of mulch. Usually mulch in the summer in Texas is a great idea. Again, I think I put this mulch in a little bit too early. You'll see there's some damage. There's even a little spot there where these pill bugs actually ate a hole in one of my onions. I'll have to harvest that one and use it quickly, but that's a pro and a con of the mulch. It keeps it moist. That's probably why I have such good bulbs, but then the pill bugs are becoming a little bit of a problem. Cucumber beetle, those guys. Those are not the yellow version of a ladybug. Bad beetle. Anyway. All right, so I've got my first flowers over here. This is a determinate variety, so I definitely won't be trimming off any of its limbs or anything. I'm going to let it grow just however it wants to, give it as much space as it needs, and hopefully it'll produce a whole bunch of tomatoes around the same time, which will be lovely. I did a video on herbs. I may have to do another one because there was a jackhammer in the background, but you can go watch that video. But these are my oregano, and everything else is doing really well this year. This is, and I'm going to do a video on fruits you can grow in Texas. Texas is kind of a weird spot. It's hard to grow certain things, but this is a blackberry bush. So this will not produce blackberries this year. You'll have these thicker bushes. These will produce blackberries, but these will produce blackberries the following year. So they say you only get blackberries every other year. That's not actually true. You get blackberries every other year on a particular shoot. So this shoot will die completely when it's done producing blackberries. You can even see the, got a little damage right there. I think I'm gonna have to come out here and, yeah, that's not good. Have to look into why that's happening. But these blackberries will actually, this shoot will completely die back after it's done. And then this shoot will be the one, this one over here, which has no blackberries on it this year, will be the one that produces the blackberries next year. So you don't want to kill these just thinking, oh, they don't have any blackberries. That's your blackberries for next year. And of course, I kind of let them grow everywhere in my yard. They're very much an invasive species, but I think worth it. They're a little sharp. Mine in particular have a lot of, that was the wheat seeds. That one got particularly big. Mine in particular have a lot of thorns on them, and those are pretty nasty to trim back. So I'm trying out a thornless variety, hoping that it produces as well, and the bugs or the squirrels don't get them all. And then I may switch to thornless because these thorns are pretty vicious to deal with. All right, this is my parsley plant. If you can believe it, it's gotten even bigger and crazier. But it's got these pretty blooms on it, and I'm gonna let it finish out its life cycle, produce lots of flowers for apparently the flies and the bees, and I'll let that guy go. This is another tomato variety. I think this is a determinate. No, semi-determinate probably. It doesn't say, but it is called a yellow jubilee. So the yellow varieties of tomatoes are a little bit sweeter, thinner skinned, got a more sweet flavor. The darker, like reds and brown varieties, have more of an earthy, deeper flavor. My kid in particular likes the sweet ones, so that's what I'm growing because she's our primary tomato eater. Let's see what else. I got some chamomile down here that's doing really well. This is a volunteer. We'll see if it actually produces anything. Cucumber beetle, got him. I'm not seeing, I've seen some flowers on it, but I'm not seeing any fruit form. We'll see. I may need to just pull all those volunteers out because I don't know what it was. I think it's a Tessa's land currant, which should hold true to its seed, but could have got mixed with something else, so it's hard to say. It's Tower Gardens, so I need to clean this guy up a little bit. It looks ragtag. This is a petunia. It's a purple one, but you just pull off the brown bits, and I'll probably pull off this whole stem because it's kind of not pretty. Just pull off the brown bits, and voila, happy healthy plant. There you go. See how to trim a petunia? Pull all the brown bits off. Just scrape them off with your fingers. There you go. I used to not like petunias, but I actually really like them. They've got such a vibrant color now. So this is a nostrum. I've been saving a lot of seeds from this. It's producing a lot, these. And, you know, it's $2 for a packet of seeds, and I can literally just shake this thing off, and a bunch of seeds fall on the ground. And I'll just collect them, put them in a bin in the dark in my greenhouse, and let them dry out. I'll show you actually. So I just pick up a couple off the ground. They say the bigger the better, but I mean, these are all pretty happy and healthy. And I just chuck them in here, and I just made sure it was in the shade. Push it back there in the shade, let them dry out, and we're good to go. Oh, actually, while I'm in here, I planted some basil seed, and it's not doing terribly well, but it's doing okay. And I got a nice marigold in here to keep company. This is my, oh look, it's 87 degrees in my greenhouse, which means the little roof vent is open. These are Myers lemons, and they're wonderful. I absolutely love them, and this is the best this Myers lemon has ever done. I've had it in the greenhouse this year, and I'm thinking maybe keeping the rain off has kept this, it's like this kind of thing, but usually it's covering all of the fruit by now, and so I think I'm just going to keep it in here until it gets to until it starts showing a sign of distress, because this Myers lemon is definitely the healthiest and the happiest I've had. So I'm going to just leave it in the greenhouse for now. I pulled it in the winter, I'll add this to my fruits video, but in the winter I pulled this in every time it got below 32 degrees. But I'm also probably gonna have to pull it out of here when it gets over 100 for August. But for now, I'm leaving it in here because it seems really happy and healthy, and may also have had a little less sun, interestingly enough, which I think is helping. Okay, so amazing basil. I really need to make some pesto. You'll notice it's already starting to bolt a little because, you know, Texas and basil. So I probably need to move this, and I probably will soon add into a little more shade. If I haven't been in my next garden video, that'll be my reminder. There's a lot of strawberries in here. They seem to be doing really well. I've only gotten one so far because of the darn squirrels. Yeah, Dory, can you be a better guard dog? Okay. These petunias are lovely, and they're the cascading variety. That one survived 2 years now. Have been pulling it in the winter, but and then my strawberries in general are doing, I think, kind of a mixed bag. Some of them are doing great, some are doing less great. I got these from little like crown starts from the store. That one's not doing as well. Maybe it'll do better next year. The ones that I bought as plants seem to be doing a little bit better, or transplanted from mine. And those are a little bit behind. So I think it's just a matter of timing. So supposedly, like in the Northeast, year 3 is your great strawberry year. Well, In Texas, we're lucky if they survive the summer. So that's why I have my strawberries in a green stalk. This is a tower garden. I have these in a green stalk because the idea behind it is I can move them further into the shade when it gets really, really hot summer, and hopefully they'll then survive our really hot summers, because it's not winter. Well, winter doesn't kill strawberries anyway, but our summers will kill them, and so they're really more of an annual crop here. People plant them in October and they try to get strawberries in the spring. But I'm trying to make them a perennial crop and get lots of strawberries hopefully next year, and that means I need to keep them alive during the summer. Kind of the opposite problem you have with most things. More nostrums here, so a real pretty two-tone variety, and this is a real pretty orange variety. I'm not keeping the seeds separate, I'm just having them go along. There's a celery in there I planted just to kind of see how it would do. It's kind of tucked in these other plants. I rotate this every day or two just to try to get even sun. There's some chamomile, some dill, just some flowers, kind of a variety of things. I think this is another marjoram or something like that. Let's see, smell it. I have no idea what that is. It's an herb that I bought. If anybody knows what that is, please tell me. That's an herb that I bought at the store, but it looks like the little tag has fallen out, so now I have no idea. I'll have to go back and look at my older videos, and hopefully I identified it when I planted it. Oh, these are kind of fun. They're just like a cool, I don't know. You can plant some fun stuff. Have fun with it. Don't get too picky about what you're gardening. I planted some lettuce in here, down there, over here. One of my best looking snapdragon that I have, but it isn't flowering yet. We'll see if it survives. I have no idea what that is, but I'm really excited to find out. My gut is telling me it's a marvel of Peru, which would be really cool because they have cool flowers. I just put some fertilizer on this, synthetic fertilizer, you know, don't get mad at me. But this one I put like a fertilizer on it to see if I can get it to flower, because or to see if I can get it to even grow. It's really struggling, this one too. Okay, these are my volunteer pumpkins. We have no idea what they are. They're whatever I smashed from last year. I've also got a couple of my compost bin over here, but I'm just growing them for fun. I don't think they're actually going to produce any pumpkins, but it'd be fun if they did. You happy, Dory? Yeah. She's laying in the volunteer sunflowers. A bunch of volunteer sunflowers over there. One more pepper plant here. This one, it's starting. I saw one is starting to turn purple there in the middle, I think. So hopefully once they change colors, they taste better. So far, I've not tasted very good. This is another place where I've decided I'm going to pull back the mulch a little. I'm going to pull back it a lot. I'm going to pull it back a lot, actually. I may pull it completely out of this bed, at least for a little while. And I'm going to plant seeds in here. And I don't want the pill bugs to eat all the seeds, so I'm probably going to pull this mulch all out today. I'll put it back when it gets hotter. This is my eggplant. It was tucked in between the sweet pea or sugar snap peas last time. You can see those are kind of dying down. I pulled out a bunch of them earlier last week, I want to say. And now these eggplants are really going to take off. They're going to have lots of space. And I'm letting a couple of these go to seed, basically. Then I'll save the seeds for next year. So I left some kind of bigger ones on there. Hoping we'll get lots of seeds out of these and those over there before the plant completely dies. And that'll be my seeds to plant next year. Kind of let that happen at the end of the season. You could save your seeds and not have to buy another packet. This is my other eggplant, looking pretty happy. This was just a store-bought transplant. And then I let this blackberry stalk, I saw it growing in here, and I thought, well, my blackberry's not doing too well this year, so this is my way of getting a few extra blackberries in an otherwise probably not great blackberry year. Oh, here's one turning colors. Look at that one turning colors. So you want them to get, I'll do a video on this later this summer, but you want them to get totally dark, not red at all, before you pick them. And so this is far from ready. It's even green still. Oh, look at that guy. Hi, little bee. Look at that. Oh, off to do other things. Good job, bee. Thanks for helping with the pollination. So see the peas are forming in there. I'm going to save those and hopefully plant them next year. But I'm just going to let them kind of dry out on the vine for a while first. Actually going to get these guys off the ground. If I leave them on the ground, the bugs will get them. This was a rose plant somebody gave me, and it's kind of a two-tone, super cool rose. I planted in the ground. It's growing, so I'm pretty excited about that. All right, so this is where I'm going to plant my sweet potatoes this year. I have not planted them yet because I'm waiting for the roots to grow in on the volunteers that I had, and I'll probably just push back the mulch, plant them, let them get established, and then push the mulch back over to give them some good moisture for the summer. But this is where I had my potatoes before. Sweet potatoes and potatoes are actually completely different. They're not really related at all, and so I think it's okay to plant them one after the other in the garden. And there's also some garlic in here. I think that's a month or two out. I can't remember exactly. I'll have to go look it up, but a month or two out from harvest there on the garlic, so that should be super fun. Again, I love to plant flowers just to have a burst of color and happiness in the garden. All right, so this guy is already trying to break its cage, and let me tell you, this is the best year I've ever had for squash. This is the biggest this plant has ever gotten, certainly before or these kinds of plants have ever gotten, certainly before they started fruiting. This guy is fruiting. I'll show you. I know it's hard to see. All right, so hard to see through the mesh, so I pulled that off. I don't pull it off very often because I don't want to give the vine borers even a chance, but there's lots of flowers going in there, which will be awesome. I think it's a patty pan squash. I'm really excited about it. This guy over here, there we go. It's a crookneck squash. I think there's actually 2 squash plants in there, which is why it's so prolific. It may even be called early prolific crookneck squash, which is funny, but anyway. So a few of them got pollinated, a few of them didn't. I think that little guy on the ground, you can see right there, I don't think that one got pollinated. I've been hand pollinating them, which basically means you come in, you grab the female part or the male part and fertilize the female part. I've done a video on how to do that. Like I did that this morning, and this is the healthiest this plant has ever looked because it's not being attacked by vine borers, and they probably would have already shown up and attacked it, or they would very soon. So I am leaving this row cover on it completely and trying to keep out as many vine borers as possible. And I think it's going to be the best squash crop I've ever had because of that. And I'm just using a simple row cover here. This row cover wasn't quite big enough to cover the whole thing, especially as these plants get bigger. So I'm probably going to have to order a bigger, whiter row cover. But for now, this is working great, and I'm pretty happy with it. You will see there's a little bit of, that may or may not be powdery mildew. I actually think I remember I've grown this one before, and it just had that pattern on it, and it wasn't powdery mildew. Green zucchini or something. I'm really excited to get zucchini. I've never really had zucchini before. I've gotten these early prolific before because they're so early, but the zucchini's always been wiped out by the vine borers before I could get to it. So I'm really excited about that. There's just a little more. I had extra garlic that didn't fit in the other bed, so that's what's over there. And then back over there, if you can see in the corner, just tucked in, I don't know if you can see the one back there, is some celery. I planted celery in this exact location, and it lasted a couple years before. It's just really fun to be able to come out and grab 1 or 2 celery stalks for a dish. Highly recommend growing that. It does really grow well in Texas. Actually, if you can give it, oh, there you go. You've got like a full celery stalk on there now. Nice. You see that? But celery actually grows really well here in Texas as long as you give it plenty of shade in the summer. Again, we worry about the summer far more than we worry about the winter here in Texas. Put these here and come fix that later. All right, this is my eggplants. They're doing pretty well. It's not quite hot enough yet, so they're going to take a while to really get going. I may actually change out this trellis, just looking at that, how big the leaves are on this this green bean. I may actually change out this trellis if it does well and put a bigger trellis there, because this guy's only 2 or 3 feet tall, and I think that guy's going to go nuts. But anyway, there's eggplant here. Let's see, Udamopet, I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, it looks like a purple variety. And then this one, this is a Rosa Bianca. I love Rosa Biancas. They create these beautiful, really tasty eggplants. So that one's a known quantity, and this one is, it says it's early and tender 3 to 4 inch purple fruit with white stripes, because that's purple fruit with white stripes, and that's white with purple stripes. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see what the difference is here. But I'm excited about both of those. I'm also excited about this. This is a scarlet runner bean, and I've tried to grow these for years, and the darn pill bugs always behead them. And so this is the first one. I know it looks sad, but it's the best looking one I've had so far. So I'm hoping it takes off and I actually get scarlet runner beans. I've wanted those forever. Not forever, for several years now. This is a plum tree. You have to have 2 plum trees. So I have one here, and I have one over there. They're 2 different varieties, but they're both Japanese varieties, which is what you need. You need 2 of the same regional variety. All right, this is more of a like traditional bed. It's got lavender in both those places, rosemary, and we've got some, that was a lily. Looks like all the leaves fell off it, which is kind of sad because I can't remember if I showed my daughter or not. There's some hollyhocks. I think those take 2 years to bloom, so this should be fun next year. And that's a butterfly bush if you're looking for a plant to plant in Austin, Texas. That's a really easy variety. Here's some knockout roses. This is a parsley plant that has gone completely bonkers. It's a really slow bolt variety. It's done really well. I actually just pulled a bunch of it off down here to try to give my flowers a little bit more space. Oh, hi butterfly. Hi friend. Yeah, so these butterflies, I think this is the one that's always laying eggs. Oh my gosh, it's laying an egg. Oh, that was so cool. I think it just laid an egg. Some space. Oh my gosh, it's laying eggs. That's so cool. Okay, so I was just gonna say, the butterflies love this plant, and there's always these cool looking caterpillars on it. Oh my gosh, I literally just saw it lay an egg. That was so cool. What? Okay, here's the egg that it just laid. Let's see. Okay, it's tiny, you can't see it. Anyway, that is super cool. This guy's going around and laying eggs. Sorry, I was out of focus because I was so excited. I wasn't paying attention. But anyway, I was just about to say the butterflies love this for egg laying. Apparently that's the guy or gal that's been laying eggs. Pretty cool. All right. This is a coneflower, another great thing for Texas. Real pretty flowers. I think these are purple, of course. Of course they're purple. This is my fig bush. This thing is rather large, bigger than a small van or something. But my husband's always like, really? Why do we have this giant fig bush? Why'd you plant it so close to the house? Blah, blah, blah. Well, it was a spot for it. And anyway, I do try to trim it back so it stays out of the path to our back door. But this thing started in, actually, interestingly enough, a bucket about that size right there. A little 5-gallon bucket, I think that is. And hi, Dory. Oh, it's a nice breeze, huh? Yeah. Anyways, it started out a 5-gallon bucket like that. I remember I dug the hole for it because there's lots of eye rolling involved with me buying it. And when I was digging the hole for it, I broke the sprinkler system. And Scott's been more willing to help me dig holes for plants since then. Oh, somewhat more willing. He is willing. He's very, very helpful. He just is like, really do we need more plants? Oh, there's that butterfly. Oh, it's a different butterfly. Anyway, we have lots of butterflies apparently. Okay, so this plant is doing incredibly well this year. I've had it for years and years, but it hasn't really produced very many figs. And I think I finally figured out why. I've been trimming it back pretty aggressively every winter. And I think I need to do that every other year because look at this. I think this is called a Celeste fig. I'll have to go back and look at what I originally planted. It was probably 7 or 8 years ago. But it was probably this big after 3 years, maybe 4 years. And a lot of my neighbors have the same fig. If I walk around and look at the figs that are in them, they look really similar to this. And they do really, really well here in Austin in particular. I think it's a Celeste. I've also heard brown turkey fig or something like that does well here, but this one definitely does, and you don't need 2. This is one of those self-pollinating or, this is interesting. This itself, this is actually both the flower and the fruit, or maybe it is the flower however that works out, but it's the flower and the fruit. And so, but this one, pollen, it has the pollen within itself, or it's self-whatevering. I'll look up the word. But this is an incredible number of figs. I've never had this many before, and I think it's because this year I was just too busy, had kind of a crazy winter, and never got around to trimming it back. And so I'm probably going to do that every other year now, because it's how I get a lot of figs, apparently. This is a borage. I planted a borage originally in that little metal thing behind the borage, and it's seeded. Last year I caught it in time, picked it up, and put it back in that so my husband could mow around it. This year I didn't, and I just said, please don't mow over this pretty blue flower that I'm going to get. But that's a big one, big happy one. So we'll see what the flowers look like, but that should be pretty nice. These are my volunteer sunflowers. This is probably the last week they'll be here. We've got a party coming up where there's going to be a bunch of kids in our yard. And I think there's a good chance these get taken out by a bunch of small children running around. But they're super cool for now. And hopefully I get some flowers on them, the survivors. Maybe I'll put a fence around this guy or something. That may be the only solution. I've got a dog fence. Put that around it. Here's to hoping it survives. This is another volunteer. I didn't mention this when I was going through the pepper section, but these are morning glories. And if you want to plant a flower and you've got some space and you're okay with having to maintain when it comes back, because it will come back, these morning glories are really, really cool. They're beautiful. I'll let them grow up our fence on both sides with our neighbors, and my neighbors both love them. They're always telling me how wonderful they are, happy they make them. The flower will actually bloom in the morning, and then by noon, well, it's a little cooler day, but by the middle of the day, those will have closed up because it's really a morning flower, interestingly enough. Well, thank you for hanging out with me today. This was a very long garden tour. I'm going to try to trim it down so it's not 55 minutes or so, is I think what I'm actually at in real-time gardening or touring. Hopefully it's not that long by the time I trim it down. I'll cut out all the walking between places and things like that. But thank you for hanging out with me today. I really enjoy getting to talk about my garden and kind of show off the hard work that goes into it, but also share some tips about what has been successful, what hasn't been successful, what it looks like to have success in Texas in particular. You'll see as we get into June and July and August how different the summer season is here than you'll see in my gardener, or even probably Jess at Roost and Refuge, and certainly Charles Dowding. They're talking about the summer months where everything is just doing so wonderful, and it's July and it's beautiful and it's fabulous. And in Texas, our gardens are kind of winding down actually, because they're entering kind of a dormancy season where August is going to be a less great event. And some of the seeds that I'm planting, the space that I have cleared, I'm going to plant some plants that do really well in the summer sun and heat that did really well last year. So I'll show you those so you have at least something that's doing well in the summer, which can be a jolt of encouragement when otherwise everything is dying or dead, and it can be a little bit frustrating. Cantaloupe or cantaloupe varieties, melon varieties, and then watermelon are some of the ones that really help in those seasons. And so those are the things that I'm going to plant. Hopefully she's getting a squirrel this time. I think she's looking at a squirrel. Yay, good Dory. Go get that squirrel. Get the squirrel. Maybe she'll get one. Well, not actually get one, but at least frighten one off slightly. But anyway, a real squirrel dog would be wonderful. Where was I? So in the middle of the summer, it's really nice to have something that is growing well, and melons can be that thing. I actually noticed there is a cucamelon that's volunteering in the garden that I'll show another video on that when I show fruit and things you can grow. And I'll do that video soon. I'm working on, actually it was funny, I was walking through my garden and I was like, I didn't think of melons as fruit, and of course they're fruit, but I was thinking of more like berries and apples and things that grow on trees and things like that. But there's melons, so it's really nice to have something in the summer when everything else is dead and dying that adds a little green to your garden, and also adds something to kind of get you through the summer and the heat. That also does well and can even shade your soil. It's really important to not just leave your soil barren. I know everything's going to die in August, and I'll do a video on soil health and treating your soil well. My soil, I think, is the number one thing that helps me be a successful gardener. And if you have really good soil and you treat it well and you take care of it, even growing something in the summer that's going to be shading the soil so that it doesn't get scorched by the summer heat. If you just leave it all bare, you pull out the tomato plants, pull out the pepper plants, and leave it all bare for the summer, you're actually going to be harming the soil. And then when you go to try to plant a fall garden or even a garden the next spring, if you haven't done a lot of amending and supporting of the soil in that time frame, it's just going to set you back. And the longer you have continuous healthy soil and microorganisms, you're going to be in a much better spot. I can go on about soil forever. My actual interest in gardening stemmed from an interest in soil, and then I started realizing I can also grow something, and that's been fun as well. But my true passion was actually in soil science and really understanding how to make soil vibrant and full of life, and to not have to use pesticides or a lot of fertilizer, synthetic fertilizer, to make your garden or anything green successful. So anyway, that's a side topic. I'll cover that at another point. No dig is probably a really good topic for us to cover, because I think it just, oh my gosh, it saves me so much time. I don't do a lot of weeding. I spend a lot of time right now doing videos, but also I spend a lot of time maybe pulling a few pests off. But I think with healthy soil, you have fewer pests. You don't have to do, I don't come out every week and fertilize. The only thing I fertilize every 2 weeks is the tower gardens, because their soil structure is too small to really cultivate for the amount of plants that I have in there, the correct amount of nutrients. So I have to fertilize that. But everything else I actually don't fertilize. I fertilize it once at the very beginning of the season, and then maybe during heavy fruiting, I'll do a little soil dressing with some of the stuff from In My Gardener. I can't remember what it's called, but Trifecta Plus or something. Anyway, I use that, and I'll put that on a little bit on the roots, but I don't actually fertilize very much. And I spend my time maybe pulling a few pests off, trimming things back, staring at my plants. My husband would say, he says I talk to them. I mean, I spend some time with them, all right? I don't know that I talk to them. But anyway, I do really enjoy just spending time in the garden, and I don't do a lot of, at the beginning of the season, I'll put out compost and things like that, but I don't do a lot of heavy labor, heavy weeding, things like that. One, I have raised beds, and two, I use this soil method that really helps with that. So I'll go into that in another date, but thanks for hanging out with me. If you are consider gardening in Texas, just know we're a little bit of a different region than Michigan or where Charles Dowding is in Great Britain. But we do have a wonderful climate for gardening. It just takes some time, and you just have to know what to plant, when to plant it, because it's going to be different, very different from Michigan or anywhere else in the country or world, because we are hot, and also we have a lot of pest pressure and some other things that just makes us a unique climate. And again, is why I started this YouTube video, to kind of help you guys learn and to encourage you and to show you that while at first it feels really challenging, I know my first gardening year was really stressful, and it was heartbreaking in a lot of ways, because I did get some things to grow, but then the squirrels would get a tomato or something like that, and I'd get really frustrated because I only had one tomato plant, that sort of thing. But you can do it. It just takes perseverance and just kind of knowing the land, knowing the environment that you're growing in. And hopefully these videos will help inspire you and help get you to a place where you understand the local environment enough to make you a successful Texas gardener. Have a wonderful day. Thanks.